Welcome to another edition of Over It with your host, Michael Inglesh. On today's show, we have filmmaker Slava Tsukerman. He zooms in to talk career, independence, and why duty is more important than shrimps. I'm your model citizen with zero discipline, your top-down host, Michael Inglesh. Welcome, Slava.
Glad to be here.
Liquid Sky left a very large impression in my young collegiate brain back in 1982. I want to just say that off the get-go. And you're the instrumental impetus, along with some others that I got to mention right off the bat. Your wife had a big part in it. One of your actresses had a huge part in it. And I think your music had an incredible part in it. By the way, the music's available on Spotify, along with other great places to get your online music. The film left a big impression on me as it resonated with the audience back then. A very modest budget, if you will, of $500,000, grossing somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 million. We'll talk about that detail in a minute. The most successful independent film of 1983, without a doubt. Although the film is loosely centered around the 1980s punk subculture, the film's score uses a series of strident synthesizer pieces we just mentioned. Now, Clive Smith and BRENDA Hutchitson, how are you still close with them? Are they still here with us on this green earth?
No, I met Clive at one of the screenings a couple of years ago, but we are not really keeping any connection.
Do you still have the FAIRLIGht?
No, they had. The story is that I tried to find a composer for the film for a long time because I had very clear understanding what I want. I wanted kind of Nina wrote music for Fellini's films, like very circus-like, but electronic and naive. But nobody of electronic composers there could understand what I want. They all tried to mimic the big symphony orchestra, and it really was difficult to do what I want. I still have somewhere a big box of demo tapes of all the electronic composers of New York. And then somebody told me, listen, just appeared first computer which makes music. And this machine really is in 3 places in New York. One of the places called PATH, Public Access Synthesizers. I came there, and there were these 2 boy and girl, BRENDA and CLIVE, who were authorized by the constructors of the machine how to teach others use it. So I asked BRENDA to be a composer because I always, if I have a choice between man and woman, I always choose woman. It's just
That's your nature. I understand.
My way of doing. So we started working with BRENDA. Turned out that we absolutely don't understand each other. And she said, listen, if you know so well how you want to do it, why wouldn't you do it yourself? I said, okay, if I have no choice, I'll do it myself. But would you put it into... I go to PATH and you for money putting it all for others to the computer. Would you do it for me? She said, yes. So I came there and we started working very fast. She left me because she had a project to go to prison to record the people who are going to be electrocuted, the killers. And then she recorded their conversations and made symphony out of this conversation. You cannot understand that she had different musical interests than I had. So, and we were putting it in the computer, and that's how it was made.
The box office was quite amazing, I think, even to...
Listen, I don't know who created the figures which are in an internet. They obviously wrong, because well, we had a lot of different estimations of different professionals. For some estimations were saying about 60 million gross of the world. Speaking of chat, I cannot prove anything about that. But speaking about besides of like letters from the distributors, like German distributors was sending figures that no film in history of Germany made so big grosses. That's what he was saying, giving the figures. Speaking about New York and United States, I can say much better because I had records from the theaters. I seen with my own eyes what's going on. It's like in 3 cities, New York, Washington, D.C., and Boston, film played more than 4 years. No, and I'm just saying that only in these 3 cities, every city made about $1 million. So just in 3 cities, there was 3 million. It's more than figure which is on the internet.
Without a doubt. Now, I mentioned earlier that your lovely wife, Nina Kerova, helped write this, along with Anne Carlisle, who came aboard kind of midstream. You had another idea going, and then between Anne and Nina, you guys came up with this script that we know today, correct? Is that how the progression worked on the writing?
It came to that, but it started a little bit differently. I had a different project which never happened. I was we were making pre-production for this project, and our casting director was Bob Brady, one who is playing the professor in Liquid Sky, who really was a professor of acting and casting director. So we started working with him and met all his students. He had a lot of students at School of Visual Art, and besides for that, he was teaching right in his loft. And people became our friends, but finally, the investor didn't want to make this film, which we planned to make because he spoke with some very experienced production managers. He wanted to spend $500,000. And the production manager said that there is no way it can be done for $500,000.
So of that budget that you worked with, how many shoot days did you have to allocate to stay within budget? And then how much did you save for post-production?
Liquid Sky was done not by rules. And I had a huge experience already of doing low budget things. So I knew how to do it. It wasn't done the usual way. Usual way, it never would be more than 20 days. But we had very small crew. I was working without assistance at all. But we had 50 days. And we had 50 days for very specific reasons. One of the reasons that was because all of the split screen things which were played to roles really were done the only way we could do it back then in the camera. So just to change, to shoot one half of the shot and then to change costume and makeup of Anne and shoot the second half of the shot took like half of the day. So to shoot 2-3 takes, we should, for every shot like that, split screen, we should spend the entire day. Other thing, we didn't want to shoot the normal lighting in the street. To make a very effective look of night street, we should shoot it in so-called magic hour, and it's like several minutes in New York. So every day, half of the day we were shooting what we planned, and then we ended the shooting and moving the entire crew to the street to shoot like 2 minutes of magic hour to shoot the street scene. It's all changed schedule absolutely. It wasn't normal schedule. All other things about shooting Liquid Sky was not by rules. That's my main rule, not follow the rules. And that's the only way you can make low budget film look like high budget.
Speaking of rules, what was your shooting ratio? How many takes on average were you doing? Because I noticed a lot of long, continuous takes. How many of those were you able to do and still get the performances that you needed from the actors?
Not here. Here we had no big problems because we rehearsed everything. My film was rehearsed many times on video. We didn't make many takes. Other thing that the first day of shooting, I really made an experiment. I tried to shoot with very long shot with the movement of a camera, and we realized that we cannot do it because it just demands a very professional crew. It just changing focus is practically impossible. It's possible, but it's done like the first day we tried to make the one scene of the film, one episode completely at one shot, but only on 15th take it was all in focus. But on 15th takes, actors couldn't act. They were very bad. So I changed it, and after the first day we were shooting everything editable with very, very short shots.
Who's your favorite artist, living or dead, Slava?
It's very difficult to say because I like a lot of different artists. But if you want to really limited by a while, it will be Picasso, I think, or Velasquez.
Picasso's up there in my top 5. As a matter of fact, I've used Picasso as number 1 quite often. Do you collect art? Are you a collector of things? I notice you have a lot of books, but do you collect art?
No, I'm not a collector, and I think maybe it's wrong, but I've always been more interested, and just was thinking less about getting pleasures and more about making art, because that's what was my interest. And sometimes I'm sorry about it, because I had a lot of friends, artists, and I could collect a lot of good things, but I didn't do it.
I have a question. I noticed on the interweb today, someone had the prop from the UFO, which is, as we all know, about the size of a large dinner plate. Do you still have that? Was that an older picture, or?
It says I still have it. It's fall down from a shelf and has some some.
It's a wonderful artifact. It's a wonderful artifact. Just a little back history on yourself. You were born in the Soviet Union and immigrated in 1973. You immigrated with your wife actually to Israel. How long did you stay in Israel? Like 2 years, 3 years?
3 years, and actually made two long documentaries and quite a few short films. I really was working all the time there.
You're doing great things in the documentary world, and I've noticed you've also done a few films recently in the documentary style.
Listen, I'm making documentaries, then for some reason I'm really interested in the subject, or somebody really wants me very much to do it. It's never been my choice. I was in Russia, it was like government decided what you do. And I really was put in the studio which was supposed to make science documentaries. And that was good for me because nobody knows what science documentary. I was mixing all the possible genres there and almost never made the real documentary, never no interviews or things like that there. So they really were not documentaries, they were more fantasies. It always was interesting for me to make science documentary about the subject which nobody knows how to show, which has no images, you need to create images. That was my favorite thing always. Then I came to Israel, and it was my first proposal to make documentaries for Israeli television. I started doing, I made a couple, would say normal documentaries. The first was about Russian history of Russian church in Israel. And it got the first prize on the Hollywood Festival of TV films. So it really was very successful. In Israel, I think the statistics was that 40% of Israelis seen this documentary. Everybody praised it, every newspaper. But some people really were shocked because they said, "What's that? How can it be a documentary without interviews?" It was a documentary without interviews. So what I'm saying, documentary is not my choice. Then later, my last big documentary was made in Russia, like American-Russian production, was Stalin's wife, about Stalin's wife. And I couldn't say no to things like that because I've always been interested in Stalin history, and the idea that I can get to the archives and see all the archive materials and interview the people who knew Stalin, his relatives, and people who knew Stalin personally, was really very exciting to me. And again, it was very successful documentary because it was very interesting to me. That's my connection to documentaries.
What is your favorite movie that you sit back and if you see it on TV, you stop and watch it? Or if you want to tell somebody, hey, have you ever seen this movie? And they say no. So you sit them down and you say, you have to watch this movie because it's one of my favorite movies. Could you possibly pick a title out of the thousands of movies that are swimming around in your head right now? Could you pick a title and tell us?
Well, to tell the truth, I probably would choose about 100 movies. But if you want me to single out one, it would be 8.5. Fellini's 8.5, because this movie probably impressed me more than anything else.
Do you think 8.5 gave a little nod to Liquid Sky when you were making Liquid Sky, in the way in which you made it, and the way in which you cast it, and the way in which you shot it?
I don't know what influenced me more in terms of Liquid Sky, maybe Stanley Kubrick, who is one of my favorite film directors as well. Like Clockwork Orange influenced me a lot, and actually that was more like film I thought more before making Liquid Sky. But again, I'm not, I'm not a one taste person. I like a lot of different things, and I think all of them are influenced me some way.
I totally get that. I totally get that. Question number 3, if there was a number. Liquid Sky is set in such a stylized mythical version of the 1980s. You got here in 1976. How many years were you thinking of making this movie from concept to finish? Now, I know we had collaboration. You wrote with your wife, you wrote with the actress. How many years were you working on this movie before it finally made it to a screening?
Well, as I said to you already, I made casting with Bob Brady and his students. It was very close to Andy Warhol's people and all the style, nightclubs and all that. We became friends. And Anne Carlisle was what she is in the film. She was this new wave model. It's all real there, and this agency with these models, they were real. They existed, and we very fast we became close friends with them. Then my wife was writing her script about a woman who cannot have orgasm, and she felt, my wife, that she cannot finish it. It was almost finished, but she thought that she cannot finish it alone because English is not her native language. And she invited Anne. Anne really moved with us, and they were writing this script. And in the evening, during the dinner, they were discussing all the subject of, getting orgasm and all these things. And I participated in these conversations. And around this time, the idea of Liquid Sky came to my mind. So then I invited them to write with me. And actually, the idea was to write the script where everybody, it would help to make it low budget. Everybody was played by the people who are planned to play it. And really, a real biography and a real character will be used for the character. A leading person would be Anne, and her character, real details of her life will be used in there. Fortunately, Anne wasn't against this idea. She really liked it very much. She's a real artist, and she likes to use her personal life in the film. So that's the base on which the idea of Liquid Sky was really built. That's how it was done.
So Liquid Sky has sometimes been called a feminist revenge fantasy. At the time when you made this movie, did you consider yourself a feminist?
Yes, probably I always considered myself. It was like a joke, even in Russia, in my young years in film school. My friend who was making like a diary of our class, he wrote the first words of Slava Tsukerman were, if I would be a man, if I would be a woman, I would be lesbian. And I didn't consider it something strange. It's not obvious I like women. If I would be women, I would still like women. It's just my taste wouldn't change, so I would be lesbian. But I guess, and this female revenge, it's one of the subjects which was interested me my entire life. I always loved Brecht. I always loved very much the Pirate Cheney song in Three Penny Opera. If you remember, it's a song about a woman's revenge against all the men who were humiliating her all her life. I actually had a girlfriend in Russia who was working in the scientific institute studying human caskets, I mean the bones. And she said that she would like to have the heads of all her lovers whom she hated.
The heads of every one of her lovers. That's great.
And many years passed. Liquid Sky was shot, and I came to Moscow and met this girl. And she said, "What a terrible film you made! It's so violent from women toward the men." And I said, "It's very funny, but you influenced it. Just because you told me back then about about your."
I call that irony,
Yeah,
Slava. Some people compared the epidemic that was going on in your movie to the AIDS crisis, yet the AIDS crisis hadn't quite made it to the front page headline. It wasn't quite a front page story. And you have denied this in interviews such in the past here. So were the aliens specifically the disease, or what were they? What was the specter looming over the film? Was it the? Explain a little bit in detail on that for me.
yes. Well, thing is that really disease, maybe it's appeared earlier, but it wasn't in press. Nobody knew about that. So we learned about disease after Liquid Sky was made. And a lot of people thought that we kind of predicted the disease. Maybe we did, but it wasn't our great.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like you had a crystal ball or something. You know, you were like soothsayer.
I guess it was in the air. The history happens this way that the moods, first mood comes in society, in the world, then event comes. So probably we felt this mood and really put it in there, but it wasn't. But it wasn't result of disease. It's opposite. It was before the disease.
Margaret came from in the script. The character Margaret comes from privileged and sheltered background in Connecticut. She says, in fact, "I'm Mayflower stock," her words exactly in the script. How did you come up with that line?
Well, that's true. So I'm saying the film is built on the real life of Anne Carlyle. And actually, the childhood photographs are the real childhood photographs of Anne Carlyle. It's all her life. It's reality. Speaking to finish what we were speaking before about the alien symbolizing disease or something negative. That's a little bit more complicated, I think, because it is ambiguous. On one hand, the alien is killing people. On another hand, Margaret is really kind of falling in love with him. She is happy that he is killing these people, and she finally goes to this alien and disappears together with him. So I think it's very difficult to tell alien is evil or good.
It was a bonus for them to find such pleasure from our euphoria.
You can put it this way. The thing what I try to do, I think that the directors I like, we usually don't give the straight instruction and straight thoughts. They give many different meanings to everything. And if you put like into your story like 3 different meanings, which I try to do, then a lot of other meanings appearing by automatically adding to them. And a lot of people can understand your film different way.
Right.
From my point of view, it's one of secrets of success of many films because different people found them different things. Like with Liquid Sky, obviously it's like that. Some people like it for one reason, others like it for completely opposite reasons.
Well, brilliant choice, my friend. The ambiguity that you leave in the script is brilliant.
By the way, the end of Liquid Sky, a lot of people asking me, so what's happened with Margaret, where she is?
We're gonna get to that in a second. No, I definitely want to ask that. But what's happening on the internet? If I'm pretty sure you're aware, there's a lot of fan-based content that's created that was inspired by or actually uses your film, and there's quite a bit of it. Anything from poster art, one sheets, to actual short films. Margaret had quite a lifestyle. It was a dream lifestyle, actually, for the 80s on the surface. She was an in-demand model. She went to exotic nightclubs. She had funky penthouse apartment. She did a lot of coke. She wore just about any kind of clothing she wanted to, but yet it was clear her lifestyle was destroying her. We're jumping the gun to Liquid Sky 2, but I do know there's a screening of Liquid Sky coming up on March 2nd at Graphiska, which is a brand new photo museum located on Park Avenue South in Manhattan. Who's going to be in attendance, and how can I get tickets? Now, I'll pose this question to both of you. Daniel, you go first. What was the last film you saw, Daniel?
I saw the film about Lucy and Desi Arnaz that Aaron Sorkin wrote, in which he kind of glossed over Lucille Ball's communism, which I found quite funny.
I kill with my cunt.
But Slava, I wanted to ask you, like, when Margaret says, "I kill with my cunt,"
Kill with my cunt.
do you still think you can say that these days?
Yeah, you see, we are working now on Liquid Sky 2, and that thing is becoming, I mean, this female revenge in the most shocking way, becoming a main subject of the film.
Like, how are you going to adapt that from 82 to 2022? There are certain words and phrases that are now illicit, not illegal, but illicit. Yeah.
Well, I cannot say details. Details are impossible to describe anyway. But the main plot is that Margaret is coming back in order to help all the women, to women who feel like they're hurt by men, to help them to revenge. So this revenge becoming a really main subject of the film. Actually, then I first had this idea. It was just an idea, but we didn't start making the film yet. Even didn't started writing script. At that moment, it happened that this company, this movement, Me Too, appeared, and female revenge became a big part of our life.
Very interesting.
So you think I kill with my cunt has like renewed relevance, like
Yes.
it's moist again? Yeah.
We're speaking about fantasy world, not about documentary about today's American reality, but the ideas are,
I mean, listen, you're the maestro. You have created something that will last forever. So I ask this from a place of humility. All the same, I will say that the personal as political has never been more relevant. There is not I see a space where you can say, I'm an artist, I am reflecting, without inflecting the political. So in Liquid Sky 2, which I'm sure you're going to do, how do you square that circle?
Well, you see, yes, I think that artists are not supposed to judge something or teach something. I think I'm supposed to show things. If there is some attitude there, that's artistic attitude. I think that every person is entitled to that he wants to be wise and more entitled to see things from all the sides with all the ambiguity, and with some it includes my attitude to myself, and everything I show has this attitude, but no judgment at all.
However,
judgment is to audience. Yeah. Would make the decision.
How well the audience actually wants to make a political decision upon it might be an old Soviet decision, but they want to make a decision about what you think, what your virtue is. Art for art's sake right now, as you know, is disregarded, is considered decadent, as it was, in other political times. So how do you, as an artist who are, I'm just, again, I'm paraphrasing, you're showing a reflection to society, not your own vision, but it will be interpreted politically no matter what you do. Even if you blink your eye, even if you look down at a certain moment, it will be political.
I agree with you, but it's not my fault to deceive him. It's just how things are, how the world works. It's not my, not my responsibility.
Right. It's not your responsibility, you feel, but it will be your judgment. I mean, it will be like however you feel and however strongly you feel.
I thought about things a lot, like a famous French director, Carnet, before the war, Second World War, created this really the dark movies, the movies with bad endings and all that. And then the war started, and France was occupied. A lot of people blamed him that he ruined with his films. He ruined the war, the morale of French people, and that's why they were occupied. That's his fault. I think it's very unfair because he, as a director, was just a mirror of the mood which was really existed in France. He didn't create this mood, but that's what all the artists do. They just mirror. They mirror what's really happening in the world. They cannot be. Of course, when they mirror it, they probably would help to make this mood higher. But maybe they just help history move. But it's not their fault. They're just a part of history. That's the artists just help history move by showing the movement to the audience. Some people don't see it, but they help. They see it, but artists cannot be responsible for that. He is just a mirror which was reflecting reality.
But you are responsible in my opinion, in my humble opinion, in many ways. You are responsible for the new kinds of sexuality which you had laid out, simpler terms. Yeah. But now there are dozens of genders. There is neurodivergency. You are the progenitor of that. I mean, you held the mirror, but you also showed the way at the same time. Are you happy about how that has refracted?
Well, I'm certainly, it depends how to put this. I'm certainly happy if I participated in history the way that it influences history to move in the direction.
You absolutely did. Yeah.
Anyway, it's just I was the person who felt that and showed it to everybody. And if it worked, of course I'm happy, yes. I'm not, but simply I cannot feel responsible. I mean, practically, we're speaking about Russian Revolution. Practically, all the Russian great writers and poets participated in building revolutionary movements. Some of them were killed by revolution. Some of them left Russia, but really most of them understood that they participated in that. Some felt that they're responsible, some not. But again, I'm telling to you, it's a strange to speak. Art. That's the role of art to be part of this part of history. You cannot blame art for being art.
Well, I mean, you can. I would offer to you. I would not blame art. I would credit art. I would credit you for changing history, because that was iconic in many people's minds, especially Dina, who made the film and adores you and your work. Everyone who saw Liquid Sky in the 80s was influenced by it, and it is probably one of the major influences that has created the gender spectrum as it is today. That
couldn't agree more.
You're not responsible for, but you accidentally, purposely, whichever way you want to think about it, you were definitely part of that. And do you like the direction that it's going in, is what I'm saying?
Yes.
You're delighted that there are many genders, there are many ways of seeing gender. It is a flexible concept on a spectrum.
Yes.
You say yes, but you're saying no at the same time. I can see, like,
you put the question the way that I cannot have straight answer because that's no way I see the world. I'm just something happening that it's happening. It's just if I participated in the process, I participated only not because I had this purpose to create something,
Right.
but because I cannot do it. It's just my natural role. As an artist, I should see all this things, so the things will change the world and show them to people who cannot see by themselves. So help them to make this choice and to move ahead.
So then it's not. So then it is not a mirror. It's a vision.
It's a mirror, but it's not a flat mirror. It's like shows more. It's like combination of the mirror and binocular, I would say.
Maybe you're taking both sides, politically speaking. If you're given a Kierkegaardian either or, if you're giving a choice between a hot fudge sundae and a banana split, you can't say I'll have them both. You can say the film I made was to influence people to think more broadly. I'm just reflecting what's happening right now. What would you say? Where does the scale end?
I don't know. I mean, again, I can tell you that among my favorite writers, people of theater and film, like this Bertolt Brecht, who obviously was doing this thing, or Billy Wilder. I love Billy Wilder because most of his films, a lot of people would say that they immoral, that they get moral, because their main characters of these films are very far from the what's most of people feel moral. And his best films are characters like that. And I do think it's, speaking about Billy Wilder, he probably influenced a lot of American society. A lot of changes in American society happened because
for sure.
Wilder's books. And I love it.
But are you happy with what your work has done to the idea of sexuality in the Western world? Not the Eastern world, but the Western world in specific, because without that, you had exposed lesbians to people for the first time. Now it is expanded beyond that, in many magnitudes. Is that something that you look at and you're pleased by?
Well, thank you for giving me so big, role in the history. I really the first person who told me that I created this change.
You of course.
He started his own church.
I didn't know that. If it's so, it's very difficult for me to tell I'm happy or not happy. I'm happy that I'm really do something in the society. Is it good or bad? I think probably it's more good than bad because that's how the history works. That moves in this direction. Really, to tell the truth, I don't think that a lot of things have changed. What changed? That people notice it more and speak about that more. But it always was part of humanity.
Can we start to come to a conclusion? Because I've been hijacked.
By what?
This has been my most delightful interview, really. It's been
beautiful.
Almost a hijacking, but it's okay because Daniel
me. Listen, I remember this film. I mean, it was these insane scenes and the content that kills. Nobody talks about that. I mean,
there were watch parties. People would get
more porno than porn.
Speaking of the cunt that kills, let's play the clip where she actually says it. Gentlemen,
please,
if I will.
You wanted to know where I'm from? I'm from Connecticut. Mayflower stock. I was taught that my prince would come, and he would be a lawyer, and I would have his children. And on the weekends we would barbecue. And all the other princes and their princesses would come. And they would say, delicious, delicious. Oh, how boring. So I was taught that I should come to New York, become an independent woman. And my prince would come, and he would be an agent. And he would get me a role, and I would make my living waiting on tables. And I would wait till 30, till 40, till 50. And I was taught that to be an actress, one should be fashionable. And to be fashionable is to be androgynous. And I am androgynous not less than David Bowie himself. And they call me beautiful. And I kill with my gun.
She definitely delivers that with passion.
Yes, well, I said the question is good because for this particular monologue, I'm taking complete responsibility because I wrote it. The most of it which M says her dialogues is by her or taken from her real life. This monologue wasn't part of the script, and I was working on the final shooting script. I felt that I need a monologue which summarizes all the ideas. And I wrote this monologue. Then I came home and read it to Anne and Nina and thought that they would change a lot because it's a female monologue. But they didn't change a word. It's in the film exactly the way I wrote it. I think it really reflects what was happening in the United States. It's not my fantasy, and I feel responsible for that 100%.
Daniel, thank you for coming in. Thank you for bringing your film and your candor. You really rocked the house here.
I mean, there's no candor. I mean, just asking
You
questions.
like
Liquid Sky 2. Like, how far are you along? How much? Like, are you looking for funding or any way we could help?
Yes, we certainly. You see, we were thinking about doing it. During all these years, somebody wanted me to make Liquid Sky 2. I always thought that I cannot do it because everything changed. I have no idea. Once the Japanese wanted to do it, and I wrote some treatment which was very far away from the events of the first film. They didn't like it. They wanted it close. I didn't know how to do it. You know, I felt that it's exactly the time that Margaret can come back with her event. And then there was some jubilee film, but we were already late. Now is going to be 40th anniversary. It's like 40 years since film made. And I just spoke with some investors. It looked like they're interested. I don't know what would happen. We still don't have an investor. It's not finalized. It can be finalized very soon. But at this point, if somebody wants to invest in it, I'll be happy. I'm very interested.
And there's a script? Is there a script?
Well, it's not finished. I would show it. Actually, with Liquid Sky 1, almost nobody's in script as well. And it wasn't a scripted normal meaning because it was just a dialogue. My imagery was very difficult to describe, and I hate to describe. It's a film which has a lot to do with images. And it's very difficult to describe because it's all it's artistic. It's really hurts when I describe it. But that's what we need to show the script to many people. Ask Anne, who is among three of us, she is the only Native American English in her language. I said, so listen, please write some description, some action there.
Yeah, why not? You can change it later.
Yeah,
write anything.
But I can, right. Some people, there are two types of scripts: scripts for producers and scripts for directors. But I didn't want to write scripts for producers. And And Anne couldn't too, because she took the script at the end of every episode she wrote, and then they fucked.
Of course. Yeah, of course they did. Yeah.
I mean, so the script which I'm writing for myself, first of all, it's not finished because I'm not sure yet what kind of budget I will have. And second, I just hate finishing it in the final, absolutely final form. Because I have a lot of images never used, I cannot describe them, I don't want to describe them. So I don't know. I mean, it depends. If it will be needed for raising money, I will finish it some way. But right now, the script is not in.
I mean, I would say, let me leave it with this. I don't want to, like, you're the maestro. I don't want to impose my opinion too much here. But what I would say is, put something together so somebody can hang their hat. There are plenty of people who would love to fund it. Put the cast up there. We both know art is an organic process. It will change. But if people with money who think linearly, who think geometrically, not organically, that will give them somewhere to hang their hat. And then take the money and make the brilliant follow-up. Why not? We've all been waiting for it.
I want to make sure you're at that screening, Daniel, on March 2nd.
I would love to.
Fotografiska on March 2nd. And I'm sure you will be hit with those questions from the audience, young Slava.
They will,
right?
they will ask him that question. They will be afraid. They worship him.
Okay.
I have a distance over the internet, so I can be brave. How do we make that real? And I would say the way to make it real is to pretend it is real to people who will give you the funding, who need to see structure, and then you go on the artist journey and do whatever the fuck you want to do. You can do a head fake.
Thank you. I'm simply doing it, and I have a synopsis, I have a treatment, I really have a lot of things to show.
I would love to see it. Why don't we just give it a date? Why don't we just say 2023 September, principal photography begins. Okay. End of story.
Great.
That's a headline. You're going to write that headline. Hey, Danny, thanks again.
Long time.
I think I love you long time is right. Thank you, Danny. Thank you very much, Slava, for your candor today.
Glad to be here.
And let's not forget to plug the film's screening on March 2nd at Fotografiska. I'm your non-Mayflower stock host, Michael Inglesh, and this has been a very intriguing conversation. 3 ways are better than 2. I'm your non-Mayflower stock host, Michael Inglesh, and this has been a very intriguing conversation between Slava Tsukerman and my good friend Daniel Scott Caden. Please stay tuned for more information, and if you'd like to go see the screening on March 2nd, please do. I'll see you there on the aisle. Remember, stay positive, test negative. Thanks for watching.
Όλα ακούγονται μαύρα και άραχνα.